Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's start.
Imagine marrying the love of your life, only to realize his sons are quietly calculating how much of your fortune they could claim. That's exactly what happened to me, and the decision I made at 63 saved everything I'd spent decades building. Watch until the end to see how I protected my wealth and my marriage. My name is Eleanor, and I'm 63 years old. I grew up in a working class neighborhood in East Seattle, the daughter of a seamstress and a shipyard worker. Money was always tight. I watched my mother mend the same dress over and over rather than buy a new one. From an early age, I learned that financial security wasn't given. It was built, brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. I started working at 16 in a small real estate office, filing papers and answering phones. That's where I fell in love with property, not the glamour of sales, but the idea that land and buildings held value and could provide independence and security. I attended night school while working full time, studied business and finance, and by 24, I'd bought my first apartment, a small studio in East Seattle. I lived in half and rented out the other half. That year, I worked 3 jobs: receptionist by day, bookkeeper by night, and weekend hotel shifts. Every extra dollar went straight into that apartment. At 26, I met my first husband, Robert. He was steady, kind, dependable. Our marriage lasted 31 years. Over that time, I slowly built a real estate portfolio, a duplex here, a small apartment building there. Robert trusted me with the finances, and I managed them meticulously. Then, 3 years ago, Robert passed suddenly at 62. I was 60. The grief was overwhelming, not just the loss of him, but of the life we'd shared. Gradually, I found myself again. I joined a book club, traveled, practiced yoga, and remembered the woman I'd been before grief, a woman capable of building something from nothing. It was then at a charity fundraiser for the Seattle Art Museum that I met Graham. I was 61, he was 64, recently widowed. We clicked instantly, talking for hours, wandering the waterfront afterward. Graham had been a civil engineer and loved hiking, photography, and classical music. He shared stories of his late wife, Susan, and how lonely he felt coming home alone. We started dating, dinners, walks along the waterfront, weekend trips. He lived in a modest townhouse in Bellevue with a decent pension and savings. I lived in one of my 8 waterfront condos, but I didn't tell him about the others or the commercial space I owned, which generated over $30,000 a month in rental income. My net worth was around $12 million. I wanted him to see me, not my bank account. After a year, Graham proposed at Lighthouse Point, watching the sunset over the water. We opted for a small wedding, immediate family only. My daughter flew in from Toronto. Graham's 3 sons joined from across the country: Michael, 38, a financial analyst; David, 35, a corporate lawyer; and Brandon, 32, a real estate agent. The ceremony was beautiful, the reception warm, but soon questions began. Brandon, the real estate agent, probed casually about my properties. Michael offered advice on tax optimization, estate planning, and trusts. David invited us to a hotel dinner, asking for market insights and property tips. I remained polite, vague, deflecting each inquiry. Graham supported me, but I noticed the tension. They weren't just curious, they were calculating, testing, evaluating. Over the next year, subtle probing continued. Michael sent articles with notes about estate planning. David asked about waterfront properties. Brandon suggested commissions and partnerships. I stayed firm, pleasant, and vague. Graham shut down any discussion about my finances, but I could see the frustration on their faces. They were trying to quantify me, my assets, my worth. One day, I overheard Michael and David plotting. They assumed my assets could impact Graham's inheritance and were scheming accordingly. I smiled quietly. Let them wonder. Let them ask and get nothing. Later that evening, Graham and I sat together overlooking the waterfront. I told him what I'd overheard. He was furious, but I calmed him. This is why I didn't disclose my portfolio, I said. They think they're protecting you, but they have it all backward. I had drawn up a new will. My properties were separate, protected, and allocated to my daughter or held in trust for grandchildren. Graham would have lifetime residence rights in the condo. Our finances were separate and household expenses shared evenly. We were roommates who loved each other, and nothing else would interfere. 2 years into our marriage, I can say with certainty that keeping the full extent of my real estate portfolio private was the smartest decision I ever made. Graham and I live simply, love fully, and enjoy the life we've built together without letting money twist relationships. We walk along the waterfront hand in hand. He brings me coffee. I cook his favorite meals. We laugh, we live, and we treasure the quiet strength of trust. And that, after all the careful planning, is priceless. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more jaw dropping real life stories of family, love, and unexpected wealth. Don't forget to turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next in these powerful true life tales.